What's up, people? Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's spotlight is on the one and only Jurgen Klopp, German-born manager of Liverpool. What will the Premier League be without his quotable quips, passionate fist pumps, and hamstring-pulling hysterics on the sideline? Liverpool and neutral fans alike, some of them at least, will miss the man who has become synonymous with the club. A long-time servant of the beautiful game, Klopp has been a part of the Liverpool furniture for some time now, bringing them some of their most treasured success and ensuring that no matter what the future holds, he will never walk alone. After bouncing around a number of different lower division teams, a young Klopp would find himself a part of the Eintracht Frankfurt setup, where he was also coaching in the youth program in 1990. That summer, he would sign for Mainz, where he would stay for the remainder of his professional career. Beloved by the fans for his drive for the shirt, he would begin as a forward for the first few years, but would switch to defending in the 1995 season, still ending his career as Mainz's top goal scorer with 56 goals, 52 of which were in the league. Klopp would simultaneously earn a sports science degree that same year, but Mainz were never quite good enough to make it to the top flight of German football. They did come close with 2 fourth-place finishes in his later years as a player, but it wasn't close enough. While they couldn't attain promotion during his stint in the backline, the powers that be decided that perhaps Klopp could affect things better from the sideline. Immediately upon his retirement in 2001, Mainz would appoint him as manager. When Klopp took over in February of that year, Mainz were in a bad way, staring down relegation from the second division. Klopp assumed the head coaching role and won 6 of the first 7 games, narrowly avoiding the drop with only 1 to play left in the season. With a full pre-season under his belt, Klopp was able to implement his counter-pressing tactics, and Mainz would finish 4th, only just missing out on promotion the following year. They would make it a step closer the next season, once again finishing 4th, but only missing out on promotion by goal difference on the final day. The 2003-2004 season would finally see them over the line in 3rd place for what was the very first promotion in the club's history. They had made it to the Bundesliga. 11th place that first season was very impressive for the smallest club with the smallest budget in the smallest stadium. Also eye-catching was their second successive 11th place finish the following campaign, which would secure qualification for the 2005-2006 UEFA Cup. They would unfortunately meet eventual champions Sevilla early on in that competition and go crashing out. That would be the highest height that they would achieve, as the following season they were relegated. Klopp, however, chose to stay at the club for the next campaign, but they would fail to return to the top flight of German football. He would then resign after the 07-08 season, 7 years after getting his start. His success at Mainz would earn him the interest of both Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich at the very top of the German game, and he would eventually sign with the Black and Yellow. His first match was a win in the domestic cup, and he would pick up his first trophy in the 2008 German Super Cup, defeating Bayern München. They would finish that first season under Klopp in 6th, just missing out on Europe, but the following year, with one of the youngest squads in the league, would improve upon that record and finish 5th, just good enough to make Europe. The 2010-2011 season started off with a loss to Leverkusen, but they would follow that up with 14 wins in the next 15 and go on to win the league in April with 2 games to spare. This team defended extremely well, only conceding 22 goals all season, while the likes of Robert Lewandowski, Shinji Kagawa, and Mario Götze led the line going forward, making them the youngest side to ever win the Bundesliga. The next campaign was one of success as well. Lewandowski scored 30 goals, and Dortmund retained their title, going 28 games unbeaten, setting records for wins, points, and points in the second half of the season. To make it even sweeter, they would defeat Bayern München in the Pokal to mark Dortmund's first ever domestic double. In Klopp's own words, it was better than he could have ever imagined. The focus for the next season was on the Champions League, but Dortmund would be drawn into the group of death in 2012-2013. Manchester City couldn't beat them. Real Madrid couldn't beat them, nor could Ajax, as they went unbeaten in the group stage. Real Madrid would get another chance in the semifinals, and Dortmund would record a famous victory at home, followed by a desperately nervy game at the Bernabeu that would see them into the final. Word had gotten out that Mario Götze was headed to Bayern Munich, whom they faced. And of course, they would lose to that Arjen Robben goal in the 89th minute at Wembley. It was a result communal to that season, unfortunately, as they finished second in the league and were dumped out of both domestic cups. The turbulent times continued as Klopp faced a fine for the first but not the last time for his sideline antics in March of the 13-14 season, and another high-profile departure would be announced in January as Lewandowski was set to move to Bavaria. It was a disappointing campaign despite the Super Cup title. Madrid would knock them out of the Champions League, and they would finish runners-up in the Bundesliga once again. They would win the German Super Cup again at the beginning of the following season, but poor league performance led Klopp to announce his departure at the end of the campaign. Ironically, this improved the form of the team, and they would come roaring back for a 7th place finish, but were disappointed in the domestic cup by one Kevin De Bruyne, then at Wolfsburg. Familiar settings, it seems. It was a disappointing end to another 7-year era that marked more highs than lows, with Klopp citing things beyond his control at the club having major impact on the end of his tenure. It was time for the move to England. The Fenway Sports Group, owners of Liverpool Football Club, decided to use math and statistics to find a new manager, and their calculations pointed them towards Jurgen Klopp, who would dub the club as a special one, but himself as the normal one, riffing off a press conference held some years before. The first season was a difficult one, but they would beat Chelsea for Klopp's first Premier League win, and defeat Manchester United in the Europa League on their way to an 8th place finish in the Premier League. They would progress to the final of that Europa League, but serial winners Sevilla could not be knocked from their perch. And it was a similar story in the Carabao Cup as City beat them on penalties. This would, however, earn the entire coaching staff deals till 2022, and the next season they would finish 4th to return to the Champions League. The 17-18 season saw the notable arrivals of Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dejan Lovren, and Virgil van Dijk, not to mention a certain Egyptian maestro. Liverpool would go on to finish 4th in the league once again, but would make a powerful run to the Champions League final. That team could score tons of goals, but conceded far too many, and they would not win the Champions League. The summer of 2018 saw Naby Keita, Fabinho, Xherdan Shaqiri, and Alisson Becker through the door as the team was shaping into something incredible. The 18-19 season was one of record-breaking merit. It was a long, unbeaten run, 30 wins in the Premier League, including their first 6 matches. They would only lose the one game to Pep's Manchester City that season and would rack up 97 points. However, it was still not enough, as of course City were Centurions. It was the most points ever recorded by a team that didn't win the league. Their domestic cups were a disappointment as well, but the real thrills came in the Champions League. They scraped through the group stage on goals scored to face Bayern in the round of 16. This would require a famous victory in Germany to progress to face Porto, whom they smashed 6-1 on aggregate in the quarterfinals. Then came Barcelona, tournament favorites, whom they fell to at the Camp Nou 3-0, as so many do. I still remember how shocking the performance in the second leg at Anfield was from the Catalan Giants. The corner kick where Barca were caught napping still raises eyebrows even to this day. Divock Origi and Liverpool ran out 4-0 winners in one of the most famous comebacks in European history. Surprise finalists themselves, Tottenham could not handle the heat, and Klopp lifted the Champions League for the one and only time in his career with a 2-0 victory, his first trophy for Liverpool. Although the following campaign would start with a penalty shootout loss to City in the Community Shield, they would win the UEFA Super Cup by beating Europa League winners Chelsea, securing a second trophy at Anfield for Jurgen Klopp. He would then be named Manager of the Month for the first 2 months of the season because Liverpool won their first 6 matches. He also won Manager of the Year in 2019. That December would see them lift the Club World Cup, trophy number 3 with the club, as well as another Manager of the Month for November. Their unbeaten run would extend to 38 games, and they smashed a number of Premier League and Liverpool records, as Klopp won Manager of the Month the following 2 months as well. As we all know, they would go on to win the league with 7 games to spare, still a truly special feat in the game today. And that unbeaten run actually extended to 44 games, counting the season previous, and of course, Klopp was named Manager of the Season. The 2021 campaign started well, but the 7-2 loss to Villa was a shock. Couple that with Van Dijk going out for the season against hated rivals Everton, and this season would be a rocky one, despite the 63-match unbeaten run at Anfield. They would drop as low as 8th place at one point, but bounced back for a 3rd place finish with another unbeaten run of 10 games to finish the season. The next year was one of milestones for Klopp, including his 200th victory for the club and a special night at Old Trafford where they demolished United 5-0. The Premier League season was hotly contested, and Klopp would lead the Reds to 3 finals. They defeated Chelsea on penalties in both the League Cup and the FA Cup to lift his next trophies for the team, but unfortunately they could not best the Madridistas in his 3rd Champions League final to cap off that incredible season where they lost the league by just 1 point. Last year was an absolutely torrid one for Liverpool, although it did begin with Klopp lifting his 7th trophy in 7 years for the club, even though it was the Community Shield, but it did mean that the German had won every trophy available at one point or another in his time with the Reds. And what would I be if I didn't mention the more memorable moments of last season, including an absolute mauling of United at Anfield, 7-0 in a night that Jurgen Klopp will, of course, always remember. The lovable German has been able to implement his pressing and counter-pressing style everywhere he goes. While statisticians will note the 7-year period he seems to spend at each club, those 7 years are always filled with success, passion, and teams that are extremely tough to beat. The Liverpool that won the league and the team that lost by 1 point pressed like animals. And even in the season just gone by, where they were less than expected, when they got their tails up and that Anfield energy behind them, they were still a force to be reckoned with. Klopp's antics on the sideline will always be cause for discussion, not least of all when he pulls a hammy celebrating. Many thought he might hang it up at some point last season, going along with his 7-year pattern, but he has persisted. The season was marked with trials and tribulations, and of course, a late season surge. Now that Pool are back where they belong at the top, fighting for honors and mixing it up with the big dogs, he's announced his departure from the club. A sad day is coming for the Reds and their fans, but Klopp has certainly cemented himself as one of Liverpool's greatest ever managers, and led them to a period of success that they will always remember. But for now, they look as mean as they ever did under his tutelage and guidance. The only question left to answer is, what will this season mean for Klopp's legacy at the club? How many trophies can he add to the resume? His battles with Pep will surely be a topic of discussion for many years, but can he get just one more over on his longtime rival and win the league this season? Already in the League Cup final, they're 5 points clear in the table, not to mention favorites for the Europa League. I, like many others, expect the German to go out with quite the bang and leave Liverpool, as he says, through the front door, head held high, as an absolute legend. Well, Klopp is definitely worthy of the spotlight this week. Let's get the likes up for a sterling career. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We are on our way to 200 subscribers. If you're enjoying the series, go ahead and get the notification bell on as well. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, and you will see me next time.